So how do we do realistic reflections? Well, one of our subscribers asked that question, and we'll take a look at it now. Well, as always, I don't like to give you formulas because the formula is not going to get you anywhere. You know, I could give you a formula for painting a reflection. You could paint the same old reflection for all of your life and not get any joy or learn anything from it. So I like to point you in a direction to say, okay, in this case, for reflections on water, there are 4 things that if we really pay attention to, we'll get it right every time. First, before we go into the 4 things, remember that reflections are mirror images, pretty much mirror images, but sometimes that water is going to be moving, and when the water moves, it distorts the image. So sometimes you'll see a portion of an image, sometimes you won't see any image at all because the wind will be blowing across the water, creating thousands and thousands of little tiny waves, and it totally distorts the image. So you might not see the image, you might see something of the value of the image. So let's just look at what are you going to look for and how you're going to approach it. So first of all, I've got this photograph of reflections in water. Now, if you go to pixabay.com and you simply type in, or in the search portion, reflections or water reflections, you'll find all kinds of reflections doing all kinds of things. So here I'm just using this as an example of this particular kind of, or these particular kinds of reflections, just to show you a little guideline for how you might get good realistic reflections all the time. First thing, align the image with the reflection. Now remember I said it's mirror image. So if you look at this image, we're just going to work with this portion of the image right in here. Then you look how it's aligned. This image goes straight down like that and aligns. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration as I move along with these 4 suggestions so that I can illustrate to you what I'm talking about. So what do we have there? Well, let's see. Let's just do just a little bit of drawing and show you how we will pay attention to that. So we have up here in this part we have a tree, kind of an oak tree, and we see that the image, well actually there are multiple trees in there, but it looks like there's one major tree that is pretty much taking the attention for us there. All right, so we have the tree. Now let's just do this. I'm just going to do kind of a cartoon version here to show you. Then you have the tree in its location. And so here is the landmass like that, and we see the landmass ends about right here. We just can't really tell what's going on there, so we'll just do that. Now, that tree's location on that landmass is going to determine where it goes here, but it's going to always be aligned vertically. That's just the way our vision works. So if you look at what's happening here and you examine it there, even though the tree is sitting back on the landmass, that particular tree, even though it's sitting back on the landmass like that, what we're seeing actually begins at the landmass right here and is aligned straight down with it. And then when you start looking at the shape in the landmass itself, then that's where we go to the second observation. So the first observation is to align it. Just make a line that goes down in your preliminary drawing. Just make a line that goes down that actually aligns the image, the reflection with the image itself. That's point number 1. Point number 2, measure the size of the image versus the size of the reflection. Now, in very rare instances are you going to see an exact mirror image. If there is no movement in the water whatsoever, and the water is perfectly clear water, and there are no obstructions there, there's no movement there, you might see very close to a mirror image, but that's going to be rare. If the water is moving, you're going to see some sort of distortions, or you're going to see things happening, and it might change the size. Now, I have here these calipers that I like to use when size is important, if I want to be exact. So if I go to this photograph here, now what am I going to measure? I'm going to measure from the bottom of the tree, right here, to the top of the tree. And I'm going to do it just like that. And then I'll come here, and you see it's pretty much where the tree begins, where the image, the reflection begins here. It's, well, maybe just a little bit shorter. Let's do that again. That's just the size of the tree from where the tree goes into the ground and to where I see at the top of the sky. And you see here, the actual image of the tree is a little less than that. So what does that tell me? It tells me I can go right here, and then beginning here, I can come up just a little bit like that, and that tells me where that image is going to end, right here. So that is the image's size. Or also you want to look at the back and forth size, but mainly where does it end, right here. So that's the next thing. Now, the next observation you want to make, observe the value relationship of the reflection to the image. And this is where we begin the heart of the thing. So, if the value relationship, if this image here is very, very dark, it doesn't mean that the value relationship here will be very, very dark. Because there could be movement, it could be the time of the day, there could be other things that would be influencing it. The other thing is value contrast. If the contrast is very strong here, it doesn't mean that the contrast will be very strong there. So what we're doing is we're observing this. Now I'm going to do just a very, very quick, down and dirty, you might say, just a little bit of a vignette here to sort of show you what I'm talking about. So what do we have here? We have, first of all, we have sky. And the sky is located about right in here to the image. I'm not going to do the whole thing. As I said before, I'm just going to make this sort of a vignette that will kind of illustrate the principle. So I'm just going to kind of do that. Don't see much sky through that part. I'm just going to take a little bit of this. I'm not going to take the whole thing, just enough to show you. Then what do we see? We see next we see the ground. Now what we see on the ground is dark. Now I'm looking just for value. I'm not necessarily looking for color, because the value, the value contrast, or you're being able to read the value as you see it here, means everything for getting those reflections right. So what do we see? We see the value, actually the value itself of that landmass as very dark. So we'll just do that. We'll just make a very dark value landmass right in here, just like that. Now just kind of rough that in. Now you see the landmass begins to get a little bit lighter as it goes right in here. So let's just sort of show that just like we see it. It gets a little bit lighter as it goes right in here. Now that landmass might not reflect. So what you need to look for here, what is actually doing the reflecting, because only the things that are vertical are going to reflect. So don't assume because there's a bunch of landmass right here that you're going to see landmass reflecting there. You may or may not see it. It all depends upon what's there. And that's, your eyes are made to show you what's there. So observing, without trying to follow a formula, observing these things is what's going to enable you to do this realistically. So, and what I'm more interested in teaching is how to look and not how to. So if I can teach you how to look and what to look for, here I'm just going to kind of make this just in the sake of time, I'm just going to put just a little bit here, just enough to sort of show you. And we'll just do a little bit of just a very quick block in, kind of in a middle value right here. Just sort of show how that works. All right, so that's roughed in enough to show you what I'm talking about. So right in here, what are we looking for? Observe the value relationship of the reflection. So the reflection here is the reflection of tree saith, as I'm seeing it right there, is a little bit lighter than the actual tree itself. So if it's just a little bit lighter, here's what I'll do. I will first of all find the color. So what's the color I'm reading of the reflection? So I'm seeing, let's see, that color is it's very neutral. I'm going to lighten it just a little bit. Not much, but just a little bit. Now, what else am I seeing? I'm observing the value relationship, so I'm going to lay in the dark first. Just lay in the dark of what I'm seeing here. Not what this is, but what I'm seeing here. Because remember, I told you that depending on what the water's doing, this might vary. You might see this doing a little bit different things. So I'm just going to kind of throw this in. It seems to be a little bit darker right here. Just kind of throw that in. That's very dark. Now, what do we mean by value relationship? Value relationship will be what's beside that dark. What value is beside that dark? All right, that's what's reflecting is this guy right here. Now, here's where I will take the clue from the painting. And, well, let me say this another way too. Whatever happens here in the painting should happen here in the painting the same way it happens in the scene. So now I'm going to move in to that a very light light, the same color and value of that sky. Now what am I seeing here? Yes, that value relationship is very close. The value relationship is very much like the value relationship I'm seeing there. That's what I've got to look for, because if I make that value relationship different, it's not going to feel like a reflection. So I'll just throw those values in. But now begin to ask the next question. Observe what the reflection is doing. Now, so I'll put some of these colors in. What am I seeing happen here? Okay, I'm seeing this in. I'm just going to lay that in like that, and lay that value in. And let's see what's happening over here. Now we have some other things happening here, so I need to pay attention to. First of all, I have some darker values that are seeping down into the water right here. A little bit darker values right in here, seeping down into the water. And those, what is it doing? It's diffusing. That shape, those darks are diffusing against those lights. And I'm seeing some other lines too. So I'm going to put the darker, all the darker things I see, I'm going to put in first. And so that would continue. And then I'm going to lay in the light right there. Just lay in the light in between those, just like that. And let's say where else I'll be laying in light right in here. And let's come back in and lighten up again. I'll keep this light. I'll keep this light as the same value. See right here, this is maybe have just a little bit darker, but pretty much in the same value range as this. Now, observe the value relationship and what is it doing. What it's doing, this is where their whole reflective quality gets answered. What it's doing is moving back and forth like this. Those darks are moving like this, and those lights are moving back and forth like that. If I can imitate that movement with my brush, I should be able to get it. So if I have the light here, I have the dark here, then I take a clean brush, a clean dry brush, and with that paint already there, I'll hold my brush at kind of an angle and very loosely in my hand, and I just work it back and forth like this. And there you go. And I do the same thing here. Just work it back and forth like that. And as I'm working, and I step back, and as I'm seeing, am I seeing the same value relationship as I'm seeing there? I saw that I lost a little bit of the dark when that happened. So now I move back and forth, adjusting values as I'm moving into this. What is it doing? What is this image doing? So I'm going to add the dark back in where I see it. And this time when I add it back in, I'll add it back into that same motion, in that same motion as what is it doing. So what do I see here? What is it doing? I'll just use my brush like this, move it back and forth as I'm moving down and finding those darker portions. Pull some more dark into it. I'll do the same thing here, move it back and forth like that as I'm moving down. As I'm moving down. And sometimes, just to get to do something like this, looking at this still, what needs to happen? A little bit more of that dark comes this way, so I'll catch the brush and pull it that way. A little bit more of the dark comes this way, I'll catch it with the brush and come that way. In other words, what we're doing here is we're allowing the brush to do what we see the image doing. And when we can learn to do that, then we can learn to translate, or we can learn to interpret movement or reflections on water. And as if they're moving, and you can see there, that's beginning to feel like the water is moving and the image is reflecting. And you can see if I were to continue in that direction, how we could have an image that is communicating that it's in the same kind, reflecting in the same kind of water that we see this image reflecting in. So perhaps that answers the reflection question. If you play around with that idea, just not trying to imitate what I did, that won't get you anywhere at all, but to follow the process. First of all, align the image with the reflection, measure the size of the image versus the size of the reflection, because you want it to look like an image that's reflecting. Observe the value relationship of the reflection to the image, and observe what the reflection is doing. And when you determine what the reflection is doing, make your brush do that same thing. And that will, you'll be surprised how much that will be your own movement, not necessarily my brush movement or a brush movement that might be shown to you by some other teacher. So give that a try and see if you don't find that it works very well for showing reflections in water. And there are other things that we can give a try too, and that is if you can go to our site at dynamize.com, you'll find that we've got all kinds of ideas to explore that can make painting a richer experience. Read the titles, check the descriptions, and see if something there might not appeal to you. And then if you have something you'd like for me to explore here with these quick tips, leave us a comment right down here and we'll put that on the schedule. And there's your quick tip.